They love the look of your face. They do. They love the look of your face. So do I. So do I. Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, book by book, author by author, bean by bean. And we recently did Nathaniel Hawthorne, and I was able to talk a bit about him. I always like to talk about Nathaniel Hawthorne. I mentioned that I don't have, probably intentionally, a Penguin Classic of my favorite Hawthorne book, The House of the Seven Gables, because I believe the last few copies of it that I saw, the last few editions that Penguin put out, were butt ugly. And I didn't want to have them, I recommended Hawthorne to you, and I also decried the normal way that most Americans, anyway, encounter him, which is with a gun to their head in high school, reading The Scarlet Letter, and being told by some pompous, elbow-patched, tweed-wearing high school professor wannabe that The Scarlet Letter is a perfect novel, that it's a great American classic, and that all of it is perfectly designed and well-balanced and well-intended by its author. And then the young teenage students start the book with a very long chapter that has nothing to do with the story. Nothing at all, no matter what that Professor Wannabe or any other Professor Wannabe might say. And not a word from the professor, one of these provincial-minded creatures, these little geckos that think that the book that was handed to them in reverential silence by their teachers is, mutatis mutandis, a perfect book. Imagine a high school teacher without the self-confidence to tell students, look, I've read this thing many times, and that first chapter doesn't bear on the rest of the book, and it's mighty tough going. Whereas, I want to stress to you, the rest of the book is not. The rest of the book is not mighty tough going. So skip it. Just skip it. That attitude still meets with resistance. I know plenty of academics that won't look at such a thing. They won't think about it for a minute. And I've told them over the years, well, okay, by telling your students in high school or in college that the incomprehensible first chapter of The Scarlet Letter, let's take that as an example, is integral to the reading experience of the novel, when it obviously is not. And, they might have authority problems or incredulity problems or whatnot, but I'm not one of your students, and I've read this book more times than you have, and I'm saying you can skip it. I've often told these people, don't you worry that you are putting off readers who might otherwise enjoy this book? And quite a few of them have had the absolutely barbaric answer of saying, well, I won't put off the good ones. In case any of you were wondering why I'm not in academia. But if I got that reaction to what friends of mine have referred to over the decades as a piecemeal reading of The Scarlet Letter, I get the reaction even more from friends of mine on the college level who over the years have been teaching our Penguin author for today, Herman Melville, specifically teaching Moby Dick. I have taught Moby Dick, and I have friends who've taught it a lot longer than I have, and we used to have, when we were all allowed to socialize, we used to have knockdown, drag-out fights about the proper way to introduce this book to students. You already know what I think from our Moby Dick read-along. Moby Dick has a central, incredible, almost Old Testament-style storyline about a captain obsessed with a whale that has maimed him. But Moby Dick also has lots of other stuff. Lard, one might also call it. It has lots and lots of other stuff. It has tons of exposition about whales. In fact, it opens with a sort of a commonplace book of exposition about whales. And you will find pretentious arm patch people still today in the 21st century who will defend that stuff as integral to the workings of the other plot, of the main dramatic plot line of the book. I say those things are essential to the book. They serve a very good, clear purpose in my mind. They underscore an understanding on Melville's part that the things he's talking about are not eternal, and that future generations may have a need to have them explained. That, heck, his own contemporaries might have a need to have them explained. Most people didn't then, in Melville's day, didn't have any idea of the details of what went into getting them the oil that powered their lamps at night. And in that sense, in an informational sense, in a sense of making Moby Dick, the Pequod, making it a self-sufficient seafaring vessel that could last for years without help from anybody. Those expository chapters work just fine, but I have always urged students to skip them. The proper place to start Moby Dick is with Call Me Ishmael. It's not with anything else. And I've often gone through paperback editions of Moby Dick for first-time readers who said, look, I've tried this, and it's just baffling to me. And I've said, all right, well, the problem here is that you're reading the whole thing. And that's what you should do once you love this book, not in order to love this book. So I'm going to go through your paperback edition's table of contents, and I'm going to put a check mark next to the chapters you should read. And you're just going to skip the chapters that don't have a check mark. And you, if you've read Moby Dick, you know what chapters I checked and which ones I didn't check. It always works. It always works. Those informational chapters are there for a reason, and they don't have anything to do with your first awareness of the book's dramatic power. That approach is absolutely scandalously frowned upon by all of my friends in academia, and yet I have won more readers to Moby Dick with that approach than I think they have with their, take it or leave it, I'll keep the good ones approach. And that is on my mind because today's author is Herman Melville. And of course, today's book, one of them anyway, is Moby Dick. It turns out I was right when I talked about Hawthorne. I wondered if maybe Melville would be right behind, and that also some of the Melville would be collected. And it turns out that's true. We have a Penguin shelf of Herman Melville, a small one anyway. So we have Billy Budd, Bartleby, and Other Stories, a collection of the classic stories of Herman Melville. We have Israel Potter, his 50 Years of Exile, very strange work of Melville's that I was surprised Penguin did. I was very surprised to see something like this. And this has an introduction and notes by Robert Levine. I remember them being really good. And then we have Omu and Typee, the books that made his career, the books that got him launched as an author. Adventure stories, travel adventure stories with a heavy autobiographical tint and a heavy hint of the last thing in the world that we associate with Melville, puckish humor. And then 2 different copies of Moby Dick. So we have the old style with the block white letters and the color-coded tab at the top. And this is introduced by Andrew Delbanco with explanatory commentary by Tom Quirk. This edition has been battered all to hell and gone. I have used this many, 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 many times. I love it. And this next one is different only in its cover. It has a Rockwell Kent. Rockwell Kent did an illustrated version of Moby Dick years and years ago. Really terrific. And that is one Rockwell Kent illustration for the cover. I don't believe that this edition is illustrated at all. That would be too expensive. Penguin is a very cost-conscious reprint house. No, this isn't. Okay. This just has that on the cover. This also has been battered to hell and gone, but not by me. And it is the exact same book. It's Delbanco and Quirk. It's the exact same edition of Moby Dick. So, once again, as I've mentioned on this channel a few times now in this March of the Penguins, I don't need both of these. I just don't. There's no reason. There's 2 different covers. That's all. So, and there's a strong argument to be made that I don't need a copy of Moby Dick at all, since, as you know, if you watch the build-up to my Moby Dick read-along, I have probably a dozen copies of this book. Illustrated, comic book version, larger size, other paperbacks, other reprint houses. But this is as far as I know, aside from those I have a deluxe edition of Moby Dick, I have a hardcover Penguin Classic of Moby Dick, but aside from that, I think this is all of my Penguin Melville. I guess we'll find out together, right, as we go through this. It's good that we're clearing off half a dozen books in one shot, because as I've been pointing out, I've noticed that this tour is going to outlast the year. If we do roughly one a day, we're going to run out of days before we run out of Penguins, and so any time that we can clear off half a dozen books in one day is good. That's not going to happen that often, unfortunately. We've already done Dickens, we've already done Trollope, now we've done Melville. There aren't that many others that will even come close to that. And effectively speaking, it's worth remembering that this tour will end in either early or mid-December, so we won't even be going all the way to the end of the year. We shall see what we're going to do. I am taking stock, like for instance with these 2 Moby Dick editions, I am taking stock of which Penguins I'm getting rid of? Which ones are just excess? Doubles, things that I don't want. A heresy of heresies, but I know. But we've seen it happen on this March of the Penguins. The Penguin reprints a volume that I just don't like. And only a kind of fetishistic, completist attitude would make me have it on my shelf, even though I don't like it, because it's a Penguin classic. That is not the way I collect books, or at least the way I want to. So I've noticed a thread running through this Daily Penguin of books, of Penguin editions that I don't want for one reason or another. So that will shorten things up, but not enough. I've roughly been doing the math. I'm not very good at math, but I've roughly been doing the math, and there's no way. This is we're 1 week away from mid-September, and that doesn't give us a whole lot of time, especially if I don't scrupulously do this every day. Which could happen. We missed a day yesterday. So we shall see. We shall see. The Penguin, it'll be a steeplechase right to the end to see how much we get done this year. But in the meantime, that is your Penguin for today. It is Herman Melville. The Penguin representation of Herman Melville. And of course, your recommend is as strong as it could get. I mean, I've recommended Moby Dick many, 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 many times. If you are an American reader, who has not read Moby Dick, then you have a serious gap in your reading. That there's no other way to put it. Never mind this 21st century business of abolish the canon and kill the professors who champion it. You have a serious lack, a serious gap if you haven't read it. And also, I might point out, you're missing a heck of a read, just a heck of a read. That something that richly and perennially earns its spot as one of the greatest novels ever written by an American, and maybe the great American novel. Who knows? Maybe. Certainly it's on the very tiny shelf of books that pretty much anybody who's not trying to pick a fight would say are great American novels. Not all of the books on that shelf deserve their place, but Moby Dick definitely does. So, and the rest of Melville, I mean, some of you will be fans anyway, but you might find it very interesting to read Omu or Typee or Marty. I wouldn't go so far as to read The Confidence Man. I wouldn't. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. Or Redburn. But if not that, the tales, the short stories, some of them are quite good. And Bartleby the Scrivener, of course, has entered into the popular culture in a way that nothing else, not even Moby Dick by Melville, has done. So, and that won't take you more than 20 minutes to read. And then you'll know what the fuss is about. And you'll be thinking about that story for the rest of your life. A strange, strange story. An endurably weird bit of work. So anyway, your Penguin for today is a strong recommend. Of course, I'm recommending this Melville fellow. And who knows what we'll find tomorrow. Melville and Hawthorne naturally pair together in American literature. But I don't know who else would. So who knows if we'll still be in American literature, 19th century American literature next time. I'm deliberately not looking ahead. So I'm going to fuss with these editions, but I'll do that off camera with the bean. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.